All right, welcome everyone to what is it, episode 2 now. It's October 5th in Singapore and October 4th in North America. Welcome, Breadcrumbers. We've got a great show for you today. We've got Tuan Fan from Zero Friction will be coming up. We're gonna, he was our very first customer, helped us in the very early days of Breadcrumbs. And we're gonna hear all about his story and what he's working on now. As well, just for a bit of education, we're going to talk about the merge. And last week we had a question from somebody asking about our attribution data. So we'll talk a little bit about that and maybe share a little bit about that. So for those of you who didn't see the first episode, if you're new to the show, my name is Lauren Lance. I'm the CEO and founder of Breadcrumbs. And it all started a few years ago where I was scammed on an ICO, just like most people in 2018. And I tried to put together an investigation to prove out where the funds went. I couldn't get access to investigation tools, so I decided to build it myself and always make sure there's a free version available for everyone. So at Breadcrumbs, really what we care about is making crypto safer. And the way we think we can do that is by making these investigation and monitoring tools accessible to everybody. But it's not just the tools, it's also the education. It's the understanding of how these work, learning how to use the tools. And as well, it's the ability to just start using the tools without asking permission. So this is very much near and dear to us at Breadcrumbs, and this show is a big part of that as well. Essentially open sourcing the knowledge and education around crypto. So I'd like to start off by congratulating, if we just share my screen here, I'd like to start off by congratulating Zach XBT, who's actually one of our famous Breadcrumbs users. Beeple recently just created an image about Zach XBT. This is his avatar on his Twitter account. And today he just dropped, like an hour ago, he just dropped, investigation on some funds that were stolen from people. So pretty cool to see people in our community providing such a big impact on the world. Okay, great. So as we go along, feel free to put some comments in the chat box. And another big thing we have coming up at the end, which will be really exciting, is we'll be giving out a copy of my book. We'll be playing a little trivia game here with everyone listening in and the community. So you definitely won't want to miss that. Okay, so the first thing we'd like to talk about is the merge. The merge was the big event that took place in September. And, there's a lot of media, there's a lot of misunderstanding in crypto. So I want to take this opportunity to educate our community on what does this all mean? So really the merge was Ethereum, the blockchain Ethereum, had switched from proof of work consensus mechanism to proof of stake. What does that mean? Really a proof of work and proof of stake, it's the technology underlying in the blockchain that helps the blockchain achieve consensus, being able to update the blocks and update the blocks in a secure way. So it's a really big deal because the key thing was they were able to make this fundamental change to the blockchain without taking down the blockchain. Like as an end user of Ethereum, nothing changes. My ETH is all still there. The applications I use are still there. And so what is the impact really of the merge? Well, there's a couple big things. One impact that a lot of people talk about is really, I think it was some statistic, like 0.2% of all the world's energy usage had dropped because proof of work is very energy intensive, but proof of stake doesn't use up much energy to protect and secure the network. So that's one big thing, it's a lot more environmentally friendly and, it's better for the world. But the biggest impact is really the supply of Ethereum. So every year, generally, Ethereum releases about 3%. It's got a 3% inflation rate. So like, let's say there's 100 million ETH. Next year, there would be 103 million ETH. It's just generally the supply keeps increasing over time. But now that they moved to proof of stake, the supply issuance has slowed down significantly. And so all you got to do is come to this website, ultrasounds.money. And it shows statistics about the change between proof of work and proof of stake, like before and after the merge. So right now, it's been about 19 days since the merge occurred, which was on September 15th. And since then, only 11,000 ETH has been issued, has been created out of thin air. That's the supply change of Ethereum since that time. But if it was still proof of work, that number would have been 240,000 ETH. So it's quite a significant change. At this rate, the supply issuance, the inflation rate of Ethereum annually would be about 0.18%. And if it was still proof of work, it would be at 3.77%. So it's quite a drastic difference. They also show Bitcoin here, which is, right now it's about 1.72%. So that's the key thing, for people that are trading crypto, obviously the price is based on supply and demand. So this will have probably a big impact on the price of Ethereum in the future. Some other interesting notes, when you talk about the supply of Ethereum, it's not just about how much new ETH is generated, but also when people use decentralized apps, Ethereum gets burned. And so this is kind of like how we got that number of 11,000, right? It's really, the difference between issuance and burn. Do there. So you can see, yeah, a lot more ETH would have been issued had it still been proof of work. So yeah, and then they kind of project over time, like how much ETH will be, issued, the supply. Some other interesting things you can see here is actually which decentralized apps burn the most amount of ETH. It's also, an indicator of like which decentralized apps are the most used. So like obviously OpenSea, people buying and selling NFTs, Uniswap, which is the largest decentralized exchange, e-transfers, that's people moving ETH from one account to another, and like Tether, people moving Tether around. So that's kind of a quick overview of what the merge was. And we really want to share that here because at Breadcrumbs, we believe in a lot of transparency and just, educating on the facts as opposed to providing opinion. So yeah, that's the section on the merge. One other thing we'd like to discuss is actually, we have so many features that exist in Breadcrumbs. But a lot of people don't actually know what they are, which ones exist. So one of the cool features I'd like to share with you is actually our graphing tool. And it might have actually been Tuan, who will be coming up soon, who might have actually recommended this tool. He certainly was the first user of it. So anytime you open up a report or an address or something in Breadcrumbs, it kind of looks like this. Everything on the left are incoming, everything on the right are outgoing. And this is the address I looked up, the Wintermute exploiter. Okay, and let's say you want to communicate some additional information to other people. Well, you just go up here. We got our drawing mode, and you can, just put in some text. This is a masterpiece. Put in some little text there. You can add that in. Of course, some circles if you want to highlight a certain address or something, like this one here, or point out, this is where the money came from, where the money went, where the funds went. And so, when you save a report, just exit that. When you save a report, these test reports. Okay, there we go. Just make that public so everybody can see it and save. So when you make a report, you can actually communicate a lot of the information that you care about, like what is actually should be focusing on in this report. So it's a key feature that I think is really important. And the reason we want to bring it up here is because most people don't actually know it exists. So something to help you guys improve your usage in the future. Great. Actually, we had a comment in the chat box here. I'm just going to go back to. Okay, a few comments. So, can I build on or fork other people's reports? Yes, actually you can. Just go to community activity. So this is the report I just generated right now. But you can see some other people, actually it's quite impressive. Like over time, we just keep getting more and more people from the community sharing reports. So this is actually Zach's report here that he just did on people. So you can actually come here and clone this report. So just come and click on clone report. And then it should just be in your dashboard. It should be under saved reports. So yes, that feature does exist. The other question someone asked in the chat box, do you think the merge made being a validator less accessible? Okay, so that's kind of a different question there. So the idea of being a validator, I'll just go back here. Sorry for jumping around a bit, but I want to make sure, get some engagement from the community. So in proof of work, in order to be a validator, really what you need to do is buy a little bit of hardware. Maybe it costs like $500, $1,000. It's like a GPU card. So the cost to being able to be a validator was fairly low. Or to start mining. Of course, you wouldn't be making much money at with just one card, spending $1,000, but at least you're able to contribute. So now that it's proof of stake, the ability to become a validator to contribute to the network, the minimum contribution has to be 32 ETH, which in today's terms is about $50,000, US dollars. But that's if you set up your own technology, you set up your own validator node, which most people don't actually do. The other alternative is you can just go on to, I don't know, a site like Kraken or Binance or Coinbase. You just go to Kraken here and you go staking Ethereum. And here you can actually deposit any amount of funds to start staking. $100, $1,000, it really doesn't matter. And Kraken will provide that service, do all the hardware, all the technology for you. So in the end, to answer your question, do you think the merge made being a validator less accessible? No, I think it actually made it more accessible because there's a lot less work involved. You just open an account at one of these exchanges, you deposit some funds, and the only downside is your funds are stuck there until a future upgrade of Ethereum. So that's kind of a quick overview of the proof of, the merge, and, one of our graphing tools. So we had a question last week from a user on this chat, was something around our attribution data. So one thing I'd like to make everybody aware of is we have a knowledge hub. We just released this. Our knowledge hub, the idea here is, again, with accessibility. So, it's not enough that making these tools accessible. It has to be accessible to learn how to use the tools. It has to be easy to learn how to use the tools. And so if you just scroll all the way to the bottom of our website, you can see here we got our knowledge hub. And in the knowledge hub, we have a bunch of, reports. So like how to investigate ETH addresses on Breadcrumbs, and provides a nice little guide on how to do that. And, we've got quite a few, just go to learn.breadcrumbs.app. See how that looks. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of different guides, some technical questions, crypto literacy, all the sort of things that, will make you a much better crypto investigator and much, much better at being able to use all these tools. So to go back, how do we come up with our attribution data? Well, one of the articles from that one of our employees put out was the top 10 most common smart contracts on ETH. So we actually, the way we come up with our attribution data, like, how do we know this person's name is chinachain.eth? How do we know that, an address belongs to Binance? That's attribution data, stuff like that. Like this address belongs to Binance, or this address belongs to fixed float exchange. So over the years, we've been around for a few years. We've already identified over 100 million crypto addresses. And we use, it's a term called blockchain heuristics. We do a bunch of manual and automated, ways of coming up with addresses, so that all of these tags here, all of these identities is with a high degree of certainty, a high level of credibility, that you can trust that, yes, this does belong to Binance. So we actually open sourced. We shared one of our techniques for identifying a bunch of different smart contract addresses on Ethereum. And so this is under crypto literacy section in our knowledge hub, and I highly recommend you read it, just so you can get a sense of how good, how much effort we put into identifying great attribution data. So let's see, number one. It's number one here, 10th place. Okay, so 10th place belongs to CoinList BlockFi forwarding contracts. So those are centralized crypto services. So, 750,000 contracts belong to BlockFi here, and this whole, I won't get too deep into it, but the article does get deep into it of how we come up with all these pieces of attribution data. So that's something that we open source a little bit. And again, we believe in transparency and accessibility and trying to provide as much for the community as we can. So with that, feel free to ask questions as we go along. I'd like to bring on our guest, Tuan. Tuan Fan from Zero Friction. Hello, Tuan.
Hi, Lawrence. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. Thanks for being such a great customer and a great contributor to the community for many years.
Thank you. It's a great tool. Maybe, so we want to make sure the words get out there. So
for sure. Maybe if you just want to start off by introducing yourself, and you're the CEO and founder of Zero Friction. Maybe if you want to
sure.
talk about that, and we can start from there.
Sure. So basically, I'm the founder of Zero Friction. Zero Friction is a cybersecurity and blockchain technology consulting company. We primarily support both the commercial and the private sectors. I base here roughly in the Washington D.C. area. So some of my work is with the U.S. government. Some of my work is with the commercial enterprises, and it's what makes us unique is we are very technology centric. So a lot of our consultants are technologists. They like to play with new emerging tech, and I think that bring in a different set of skill when we help our client with cybersecurity related issues.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that about Zero Friction. The website is zerofriction.io for anybody who wants to check it out. I guess maybe let's just start from you yourself, your backgrounds. Like, how did you get into crypto investigations? Like, how did this all happen?
That's interesting, doesn't it? I guess that my personal motivation is I'm a technologist by trade. I always like to learn new technologies. I'm a classically trained engineer, so I have a undergrad in chemical engineering, but my specialization is actually in process controls and modeling. So I had a lot of IT related background as part of my training. So I program in Fortran, Pascal. If you're around my age, you probably recognize what those programming language are.
I do. Yeah.
So I think when I was in college, C was required, like an emerging required learning for us to learn. But before I entered, I think it was Pascal. So So I also I always have a fascination with data. Like I always believe data has pattern to it, and if you understand the pattern, you can learn from it. So after I graduate, I worked for a lot of large corporations. I went on and obtained my black belt in Six Sigma. So I'm very versed with data modeling, and I think it's a skill set that actually have really benefit me in my professional career. I was able to build like super complex models with it, and I know my clients, if they're listening, they made a lot of money off of it, and I save a lot of money in manufacturing, in design, because of the values of the data that can give them insight to what they can do things different. So I think
the power of that data, the power of the knowledge around the data that really gets you going.
Correct. I think it's a curiosity too, right? And I'm always like a curious individual, and I think around probably 2015 is when I'm become aware of this thing called Bitcoin, and I believe my first purchase on Bitcoin was back in like December 2016 off of Coinbase. So I remember that because I had to go and look at my transaction record. So but I want to understand the technology behind this virtual currency, and I kind of start to learn about the tech. And I think my first learning experience is actually with Hyperledger Fabric, because I want something that I can deploy, can learn, can tinker with. And at that time, I think Hyperledger just released it version 1.1 or 1.01. I knew it was a buggy version. It's been a while ago. And that was like my first learning platform for blockchain. And from there, I graduate onto the public blockchains, and I migrate onto the Ethereums. And then I learned Solidity because I want to be able to build some logics behind the dApps, and I think I boot camp through one of the Consensus Scholar program, and obtain my Solidity programming certification through them, and I built some dApp from that, and so I get some experience under my belt. And I think it's just a natural progression, and then you just like, okay, let's see what we can do now. We learn, then it just naturally come together.
Right.
And yeah.
And then eventually what was the first crypto investigation you did, or how did you start to get into like illicit activities and trying to identify where the funds went?
So I guess when I started, 2017 was a good time, right? During that time, there wasn't that much regulation. There was a lot of
That was
Wild Wild West.
beginning
It-
of the ICO craze.
yes,
It
a
was
lot of that.
just as it was getting ramped up.
Yeah, a lot during that time. It's somewhat like the Wild Wild West. Not a lot of regulation in place. There, I receive. I guess one of the Reddit thread contacted me, and this user just got scammed, and he just curious if I'm assuming it's a he. I really don't know, but he just want to know if it's possible for him to figure out where it went. And I say, oh yeah, you can do that. At that time there wasn't there were forensic tool like Breadcrumbs, but it wasn't available to, it wasn't accessible to any normal individual like you and I.
Right.
We have to learn it the harder way, but actually on hindsight, actually help our skill much better because we have to learn it from the Blockchain Explorer toolkit.
Right. From the
And I think that
directly from the
required,
data.
yeah, and I think that technique is actually, I really believe if you learn from the Blockchain Explorer, you probably are better investigator versus the one that use a traditional tool. But I'm not saying that you cannot do that with a tool. It's just simply that you not every blockchain explorer, not every forensic tool support every chain out there. So
it requires a lot of effort and determination and sleepless nights of just going through all that data.
Right. And I remember when I did that analysis for that individual, I have to describe the transaction graph. And I was like, how do I do that? And then I actually use an open source toolkit called Jeffy. Some of the member may, so basically it's used for like network diagram essentially. You gave the node at the edge, and then it construct the data set for you. And I think that's when I start exploring with Google BigQuery to pull out the data set. Because I need a way to get the data into some format that I can visualize it. So that's kind of how I got started. So I start putting all these little open source pieces and two together and kind of make it work until I discovered Breadcrumbs. I think that I think that was probably around the November 2019.
November 2019.
2019. Yeah. When I think all of this is actually thanks to Harry Dentley from the UK. If you remember. Because
Harry.e. He's a well-known influencer on Twitter. Calling out the hacks and scams, and he was the CISO, Chief Security Officer for MyCrypto.
MyCrypto, yep. And I think he was using at the time Breadcrumbs to kind of forensic a scammer out of Turkey, and he kind of traced it to Turkey, and I saw how the tool worked based on his post. So that's kind of led me to the product, and I experimented with it, and I think that's when I first reached out to you about it. And
that's right.
Yeah, I actually, if I don't know if you remember, Lon, I back test the tool against the parity multi-signature hack.
That's right.
Remember that?
Yeah, and you sent us like
a report,
a 5-page report or something that like compared our data with the the data from the blockchain. It was like it actually matched.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually
Yeah,
because
our tool
that's
works.
because my data was pulled from BigQuery and I used Jeffrey to visualize it, and then I have
Right.
your data as a visualized solution. I just want to kind of compare and compare the outcome, and that's kind of like, hey, there's definitely something going on here,
That's right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think it had cut down on your time of doing the investigation and made
big big
made life a
big
lot easier.
significant time saving. I mean, it's if anyone have to do it manually, it can be done. It's just an incredible amount of time and detail. You have to get yourself organized to do it. So
And you have to be technical. Like
yeah,
we
to
always
some
have to remind
extent,
ourselves most people are not as technical or
yeah,
as knowledgeable as we are.
true.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you
that's
have to query stuff off of big queries, and you have to know SQL. Yeah, and yeah, it's not an easy feat if you don't have the right skill. Yep.
right. And so from November of 2019, I think we maybe had a call like every couple months or something, and you'd provide product feedback. You'd be like, oh, I want to be able to do this.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, now we know what's next on our roadmap.
Right.
And then we
Yes.
build that.
Yes, I remember like you. Let's take a look at example of like when I first did some of the reports using Breadcrumb, we didn't have the drawing tool. I would have to take a
That's right.
screenshot of it, and then I would use Snap It to overlay the text.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. That you're right. Yeah,
yeah,
that's how we came up with the
you
graphing
know,
tool that we
you know,
just demonstrated.
you know.
Um,
And
so yeah, go ahead.
I think the other things that we need is sometimes I have a list of addresses. I need to be able to load it in so I can see how the extent of the relationship to the incident that you're trying to investigate. So we need that ability to load it in. And I think you gave that ability around like maybe early 2020 or maybe mid 2020 to give us the ability to load like external addresses and visualize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly the Pathfinder feature that
Oh
definitely came
yes.
from you. Remember
Yeah,
that
that one
one?
is nice. That one is
Yeah.
nice, and it's right now. You guys only support that for Ethereum, so only though as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very technically challenging feature to build,
Yes,
as you
I
can
can
imagine.
imagine. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why also like nobody else has it. You know,
Yeah.
it's maybe only available through an API, but it's not accessible. Like nobody else has that feature. So right now it's on Ethereum while we do it in beta and get it working well. But yeah, it's definitely in our roadmap to once we keep iterating on it until eventually it becomes, more reliable, more better, and then we'll be able to expand it out to other blockchains.
I think one of the things that I mentioned is the time clustering. I don't know if you recall that. Like, it would be nice if we were able to cluster transactions to kind of determine a generalized, maybe a time zone to where the peer could possibly broadcast from.
Yeah, that's something like that is on our roadmap. As you can imagine, there's quite a lot of features to put in there, but I think what would be beneficial for the community is that actually if we could see one of your works of art, in
Sure.
our community activity, what's your username? Like you've contributed quite a lot of reports to the
I think
community.
it's Tfon something.
It might be
Yeah.
Zero Frictions.io, I think is your account.
Okay.
But yeah, here, this is an example of one of your reports that you did. Maybe if you can walk us through.
Sure. So I don't know if the community remembers. I think this was during the summer. I forgot which year. Well, maybe 2021.
2021. Yeah, it was about a year ago.
And
a year and a half.
And during that summer, gas price went up over the East Coast because what happened, the Colonial Pipeline, they essentially are the main trunk in which deliver fuel to the port from which it get transferred to the use point. and it's apparently the dark side said was successfully put in a ransomware and lock up all the asset. And what Colonial Pipeline ended up did is they concluded to pay the ransom, whatever that, I forgot what the amount were. It was pretty sizable amount. I think it was.
You can look up the amount.
You can actually look it up for the amount. That's true.
So this is the ransom address here. Is that correct?
Yes. So you can probably see the amount sent in, here. Probably the 75 million. Yeah, is that
75 Bitcoin.
Bitcoins. Okay,
this
so it's about
Bitcoin. At that day it was worth 4.3 million.
Got it. Yeah. So they decided to pay that into the dark side ransom gain for that amount. Mm-hmm. But unknowingly to the dark side at the time that the FBI is already at that time was monitoring them. They all aware of this transaction, and when the address broke the news, basically the FBI made the announcement that they was able to recover. I believe out of that, I think the original amount was 5 million at the time. They was able to recover roughly that back and the way they was able to recover it, because they was able to isolate are we on the developer, on the affiliate?
This is the affiliate here.
Affiliates, yeah.
So I clicked on the line between dark side affiliate and the FBI holding address. Is that correct? Or is
That's correct. So if you click on that, so what happened is the FBI was able to identify the affiliate in a data center. I assume it have to be U.S. U.S. territory, because they was able to seize the asset from that and transfer that into an FBI holding address. And at the time when this article came out, this analysis came out, the FBI did not provide the full addresses. They only give like partial addresses. Everything is blacked out in the report. So to figure out all of the detail, I actually use BigQuery to do partial search against the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, to find all of the matching, roughly the comparable possible addresses. And then once I have that, I actually go back and I trace it back. And that's kind of how I'm able to build these pictures. Yeah.
Right. Because you really just, the FBI didn't release like this address or this address or this address. They just kind of like a truncated, and you had an idea of like the day, what maybe a buffer of a day or two, and the amount.
And the amount, the amount.
And so from there, it was a matter of like, okay, let's see what transactions took place for this amount, during this time period.
That's correct. And the only way you could really do that, because you don't have enough. If they only provide you with, say, five character as of an address, it's probably not enough to search on a blockchain tool, because there's so many of them would come up. So you would definitely have to use some kind of queries. And I think because this was on the Bitcoin network, I end up using Google BigQuery to kind of find it. It took some work, but I was able to locate some key address, and all you really need is one. Once you have one address, you can reconstruct the event.
That's right. That's right. It's very easy to create this whole picture once you have the key address. Maybe for the audience, can you maybe explain the difference between what is dark side developer versus dark side affiliate? Like, how does this work? What is the difference there?
Sure. So so this is a ransom gain. So it's a ransom as a service. So the dark side developer developed the software, the platform, if you will, and an affiliate is someone who licensed that platform, and the affiliate's the one who launched the attack. And based on the agreement, typically the the affiliates get, I believe, I couldn't remember if it's like 70 or 30 split. 30% may go to the developer. We can see the split.
Yeah, it was about 75 was
Yeah.
taken.
Yeah.
Let me start from here. So 75 Bitcoin was taken on
Yep.
May the 9th.
Okay. So 11, so
Okay.
roughly 30% go to the developer. The rest goes to the affiliate. Generally, they negotiate that
9th,
term.
like an hour later, 11 Bitcoin went to the developer and 63 went to okay. So it's a little less. It's maybe about 20%.
Okay.
15-20%.
Yeah, but
the rest went to the affiliate who actually did the attack.
Who actually did the attack. And I think in this case, the FBI was only able to recover the affiliate portion. And it's kind of interesting from this because with ISACA, I published an article detailing this event in written form. And at the time I published that article, a lot of the money with the dark side developer are just sitting on one address. And I think around September, they start to peel it. And
so
then
that's this tab here.
That's this tab here, yes. And they really peeled it out. I mean, they move it across probably like five minor peel change, and
a bunch of their funds were sitting in this address. And then it's kind of hard to see, but if we zoom out, this is a technique called a peel chain, just for the audience, where with each transaction, you peel off a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. It creates these patterns here.
But you can see that they all related to the same originator, if you will, It just end up in many different addresses, smaller amount across many different addresses. And then at some point, they probably will exit that one way or another. And I believe this particular person, whoever, they probably use software, I think, to do this, because they probably have software to kind of handle this type of transaction.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a lot for like one person to do all these transactions. So we have a quick question from somebody. Starting to get short on time here, but is there a way to query an address to see if it has been labeled or featured in other dashboards? Oh, okay. Actually, you just pointed out, this is exactly what Tuan and I did. You just pointed out a feature that would make sense for us to, add into Breadcrumbs in the future. So I think the idea is you can query an address and see if somebody else has labeled it, or what you can do is, I mean, you can put in an address, like let's say, let's look up this address here. And what we do is we have a public conversation piece here where people from the public can add their own attribution data. If it's been featured in other dashboards, no, we don't have that yet, but that's a great product feedback that we can consider for the future. So
I think if the address is public in your database, it will show up labeled as such, right? I believe that's the case.
What I think they're saying is like, hey, was this address here, like this dark side address, was it featured in anybody else's report? Was it mentioned in somebody else's report? Because then that's attribution data, right? If somebody talked about it already or did something,
it's a good point.
That could be extremely useful.
Unless that report is private, then by design you won't be able to see it.
Private. Yeah, of course. Or we could maybe mention like, hey, this has been mentioned in someone else's, 5 people's reports, but we won't say who they are. That could.
I don't. Yeah, you have. Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
To maintain privacy. So we got about 5 more minutes left. Couple other things that I just want to talk with you about. One is you created a sort of a side project called Web Rec.
I know. I love
Web3 Rec.
them. I know. Tuan just love to create stuff.
So Tuan likes contributing to the community, and building things. So maybe if you could tell us a bit about this and how did this all come about?
So the Web3 Rec is basically it's a repository for every blockchain security incident and scam that I'm able to aggregate, dated back to 2012. The database is, I would say that the database are pretty reasonable, very accurate. There's metrics that I use to compare against other security company metrics, and the number are very consistently the same. So it has been pretty reasonable. And the reasons why I built a Web3 Rec is I want to collect data so I can better learn from different incidents. And it's when originally I want to have this dream that I want to build like a machine learning model to help predict if a rug pull could be, there may be attribute from a rug pull that you can kind of like leading indicator that this could be potentially be a scam. So when I approach some of the security company asking them perhaps they could share that subset of the data set, they're not willing to share it. So I'm like, okay, well, since the data is public, let me go ahead and do it. So I went ahead. This is a project that have been ongoing probably for over a year already. If you look at the website is relatively new. It will actually build under zero friction, and I move it into Web3 Rec to make it more transparent and accessible to other people. And I have been continually working on it, build new capability to it. Like if you go to the inside, the inside page, the icon on the top.
Insights here. Okay.
Yeah. And from the inside, it essentially just give you all of the metrics against Web3 data, and you can just get geared up metric. You can also see things like if you click on Auditor Analytics. That's so basically when there's an incident and that incident is audited by say a security company, I'm able to link who did the audit to the incident. And then I'm not saying that the name mean that they're not good. I'm just saying that, hey, there was an incident, but they were audited by this firm here. So you kind of have to kind of understand that. It gives you some insight to the.
So this is actually showing like some DeFi platform or something. It was exploited, but even they also did an audit. Like they were audited.
Yep, they were audited by that firm. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so it's like this is kind of like the bad list to be on if you're an auditing firm.
Well, to be fair, if you're in the auditing business for a very long time, you're going to have a lot. Sooner or later you're going to have. You're going to have an incident.
100% foolproof.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm not saying that this metric is an indicator of a bad firm. It's just one of many metrics that one should look at.
Well, the interesting metric I like here is the by chain.
By chain.
So like this clearly shows a lot of money being taken from Ethereum. Like
Ethereum is a big chain.
Like DeFi it's a lot of DeFi and stuff. There's some Solana. I know a lot of NFT rug pulls are on here, but I guess it also depends on the type of data.
So if you go up to the monthly, Lauren, here's an interesting. If you go, let's go back to the top and go into monthly insight. Yeah, that works. Okay. So here you can actually see year-to-date losses by different method, by month. So if you scroll down the third image down, you can actually see the breakdown here. You see like contract vulnerability is roughly account for 1.2 billion losses so far.
Wow.
And then it breaks down by different categories. And then the next slide down, it actually gives you the drill down as to which month where
which
that took
months.
place. And then you can, I think under inside, you can actually see the entity that involved in it as well. So all this data is live, based off of the database. So anytime the data sets get updated, boom, the meta, the data will auto update itself. Yeah.
Okay. And you built all this?
Yes, on my spare time.
Good for you. Just,
Thank you.
A hobby,
It's a hobby. It's a hobby, and I'm not even a software guy. It's kind of funny, doesn't it?
It's impressive. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. So, I hope to. One of the things that I mentioned to you is that I like to get an API more available to people. So that they can actually perhaps just search for an address that have been in the database, so they can just and that should help some of the situation. But I think the nice things about having this type of repository is that individual can learn about the different incident. Like
there's a lot of insightful information here to begin with. Like it's quite insightful. So one of the I just want to kind of get into the last kind of questions, because we got to wrap it up soon. But I guess, you've been a crypto investigator for quite a while. You're quite experienced. For somebody who's new to crypto investigations, do you have any tips for them, or suggestions on like how to get started?
Yeah, I think there's a crypto investigation book written by Nick Fono on Amazon. Let me get his last name spelled for you guys. It's Furneaux. Nick. Yeah, investigate cryptocurrency. So I think this is like a very good starting book. It's essentially written. I think it's well written, and it provides a lot of the basic information to get one started. But the answer is not just in the book, right? A good crypto investigator probably have to learn. You have to understand how the block explorer work. Because you are not going to be able to get a tool that cover every blockchain out there. So sometimes you have to resort to using the block explorer. So you have to learn how to use that. You have to learn the Solidity as if you have to pick a programming language to learn, because you have to learn that, because now a lot of the incident and scams almost always involve some kind of smart contract. So you need to be able to read it. And granted, not all smart contracts are verified, meaning you can see the code, but there are decompilers out there that can help overcome that barrier. So it's a variety of skill you must have, I think. But those are a good place to start.
Great. Well, speaking of books, thank you, Tuan. I think that's been very helpful for everyone in our community. Speaking of books, we're actually going to give out a copy of Mastering Blockchain.
Great.
So I am a co-author of that book, and the way we're going to do it is for everyone listening in. We're going to try out a little trivia game here. If you can just put into the chat box your answer. We're going to play a game called Tribond. Have you heard of this game, Tuan? Tribond?
No, I have not.
Okay. So what we're going to do, the way Tribond works is I'm just going to list out 3 things. And you got to tell me, what do those 3 things have in common? So let's do an example, Tuan. What do these 3 things have in common? Zuckerberg, Twain, and Hamill.
So
any thoughts, Tuan? Any guesses there?
So Mark Zuckerberg, right? The CEO.
Yeah. You got
Mark Twain.
Yeah.
Mark Twain. And Hamill. Mark Hamill, the actor, I assume. So the answer, Luke Skywalker. Thank you.
Yeah, he plays
Okay,
Luke
so I guess
Skywalker.
it probably be the first name, Mark.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
marks. All three of them are
Yeah.
marks. We'll try a little harder one. What do these three things have in common? An eagle, Homer Simpson, and a bowling ball.
Or they all bald, so that's good.
They're all
Bald.
bald. Yes.
Yeah.
The bowling ball is kind of throws
Yeah.
people off a little bit, but yeah, they're all bald. Bald eagle.
Yeah.
Homer Simpson is bald, and a bowling ball is, it's nice and clean and bald.
Yeah.
All right. So for shall we do the for the tri-bonds for the book? Let's try it out. Okay, so for the first breadcrumbs tri-bonds, what do these three things have in common? Tornado Cash, Lazarus Group, and Hydra Market. Don't say it, Twan. Don't say it. You know, I think you already have a copy of the book.
I have the ebook. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you got the ebook. All right. So well, I'll repeat that. What do these three things have in common? Tornado Cash, Lazarus Group, and Hydra Market. Yeah. So we'll let people think about that for a few minutes, just kind of while we wrap it up and chat a little bit. Just put your answer into the chat box. Oh, we got an answer. All right, that was a quick one. Is that what you guessed, Twan?
I don't see the chat,
oh,
so
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So Topsy got the answer correct. All three of them are sanctioned entities. So OFAC sanctions those three entities. What did I have there? It was Tornado Cash. Yeah, that was like a big news
that was sanctioned
last month. That was sanctions. Lazarus Group. So that's the group out of North Korea. They're the ones who like hacked Axie Infinity. Yeah, so they're sanctions, all their addresses. And Hydra Market, that was like the eBay of illicit funds and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, congrats, Topsy. Well done. You got it. So I'll just text you offline and after the show, and we'll figure out how to get you a copy of the book. So we're going to be doing this, this tri-bonds, seems to be kind of fun, eh? Yeah. And maybe we'll do it again next episode. So yeah, we got a couple minutes. Thanks, Twan. I mean, what are some of your fond memories of Breadcrumbs as we kind of wrap
Well,
up?
I remember when I first started with you guys, you was in beta. You're not even in beta, you were in alpha. If I remember, you were in alpha.
Just kind of working.
Kind of working because the database sometimes it's stuck. Remember?
Oh yeah,
and
like the 10 minutes loading time.
Oh my God! And sometimes you expand and you have this massive works canvas, and then it's stuck. And then you're like, I cannot believe it. And then you have to reset. You got to redo the work. So that's probably some of my earliest memory of it. But I think you have well surpassed that now. I mean, the response is super. I don't think we have any of that issue anymore in the long term. So
no, people are using it like we even have like police forces using us. We've got a lot of law enforcement, a lot of people are using it. Well, Zach, I mean, Zach used it for people just now. And it'll contribute, continue to contribute for the that's kind of, it's like the good old days, right? The good old
that's alpha. It's just the way it goes with that alpha software. I get it. You just don't know. Yeah, exactly. But it's better that you. Yeah, it's better that you guys identified it back then and build better product from it than to catch it later,
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, Twan, I want to thank you for joining us today. And Topsy, congratulations. And thank you for everyone listening in and contributing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Lauren.
Awesome. Great. Well, we'll be doing this once a month. And Zach's an evangelist. Yeah, we love Zach. Okay. We're doing this every month, so tune in, and we'll see you guys next month.
Thank you. Thank you,
Have a great
everybody.
month.
All right. Take
Take
care.
care.